Welcome to JMR Talks. As we all know, leadership is a highly fascinating subject. Every time we are coming up with new leadership styles, like nowadays we are talking about healthy leadership. Earlier we discussed about servant leadership, etc. But one question what keeps repeating always is that why few leaders what fail, whereas what others what succeed. So let's look at the bosses which no one is willing to work or nobody would like to become such boss as such. I'm sure if you ask anybody whether he would like to become a horrible boss, definitely the answer is no. Now Bill George of Harvard Business School, he was working for quite some time to identify the factors responsible for their downfall or for their inability to lead effectively, so that any prospective leaders can avoid such mistakes. Bill George has been working for the last 20 years looking at leadership failures at the workplace and all that, and he found that whoever lost their sight of their true worth, true north, in terms of deeply held beliefs, values, living by purpose, etc., they do. But this has nothing to do with one being smart. One could be smart, but if he is distracted in terms of money, fame, power, etc., he is bound to fail. George Clayton, he wrote an excellent book, True North: Leading Authentically in Today's Workplace, wherein they explain about 5 different bosses with whom no one would like to work or nobody would like to become any one of them. Now let's have a look at that. The first one, imposters. Now imposters are such people who rise very fast up the ladder with their charm and appealing ideas. So if they are able to go up the ladder so fast, the question that immediately arises as to, are they effective? No, they are not effective in terms of leading, because they lack the sense of self-awareness. They are not able to see what others see. Neither they acknowledge nor they recognize. In other words, they are not aware of what is going right and wrong in leadership. As we all know, leaders are the one who set the direction, provide compelling vision. If they are not able to see what is going wrong and what is going right and all that, they will not be able to initiate the required corrective steps. Now, in this regard, the authors, they quote the example of WeWork founder and CEO Adam Newman. So he was a man of charm and charisma, and he succeeded raising $10.4 billion from the conglomerate SoftBank. But because of his erratic management style, he harmed employees, and ultimately he could not go public in 2019. In fact, in this regard, it's worth recollecting the statement of Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, the other day when he was speaking at port conference at Beverly Hills. What did he say? He said most of the companies which are obsessed with looking at the competition, but not looking at the internal deeply, they are bound to suffer. So you need to look at your people, their aspirations, their desires, the systems, procedures, etc., etc. Second, rationalizers. The name itself says they are the masters of denial. They are not willing to learn from the mistakes. Neither they acknowledge nor they learn. Rather, they are excellent in rationalizing and covering up their mistakes by blaming others. The others here give the example of Rajat Gupta. We all know Rajat Gupta, who became the managing director of McKinsey. He was also founder, director of this dean of ISB in Hyderabad. So what happened? He was imprisoned for 2 years for sharing inside information about Warren Buffett's $5 billion investment in Goldman. Now, when he shared this information with Raja Rajaratnam of Gallon, that enabled Rajaratnam to make illegal profits of $90 million. But Rajagupta did not have the guts or courage what called to admit his mistake, but he tried to what called blame Rajaratna. Third, we have what called glory seekers. The name itself says they're after what called name. For them, the most important top priority is what called getting the name, fame, and a fortune. When they are what called so much concerned about what called their name, fame, and all that, they will not be able to what called build large organizations or big organizations. We all know that till you become a leader, the success is all about growing yourself. But once you become a leader, success is all about what growing others. For glory seekers, the authors give the example of Greg Lindbergh, the former personal equity firm Global Growth. So what he was doing, he was busy acquiring broken businesses and growing revenue. Then he started began acquiring insurance business. But look at what called his greed. In 2020, he was sent to what called 7 years imprisonment for trying to break North Carolina's insurance commissioner. Next comes loners. When we say loners, some of us might get the impression that they are introverts. No, they are not introverts. They feel that they can do everything on their own. They are not willing to listen to others. They reject feedbacks. They reject advice. So since they are not willing to listen to others and see where exactly they are going wrong, they are prone to committing mistakes. Now look at Dick Fuld, the CEO of Lehman Brothers, the first largest investment bank, former largest investment bank. People have been warned him that because of the huge debt, there is every need to recapitalize that. Even the US Treasury Secretary also shared the concept. But Dick Fuld, didn't listen. And ultimately, Lehman Brothers were forced to file for bankruptcy in 2008. And the last category, the shooting stars. The name says that they love to go ahead, that's it. But they are not willing to learn from mistakes. Though they might aim at stars, they are unfit to lead. Because they are not, don't believe, the system of, you plan, you do, you check, and you act. They are not willing to check. They are not willing to acknowledge or learn from the mistakes. So as a result, they end up crashing and burning very fast. In this regard, we can look at the example of Uber, former CEO Travis Kalanick. What a quiet rise and the fall. The ride-sharing apps growth and profits. But what happened? The toxic workplace culture, sexual harassment cases, breaking transportation laws. So ultimately, Travis was forced to resign. What a rapid success and what a stunning downfall 8 years after. So when we look at these 5 types of bosses, anyone who dreams of becoming a leader, I'm sure they can avoid such mistakes so that they become good bosses whom people would like to follow and under whom people would like to work. Now, though we talked of leaders, this analogy equally applies to managers as well, because managers they lead their teams. We have seen in terms of Gallup's finding that how strong and vibrant work environment depends to a large extent on the managers. So, are you as a manager committing or prone to commit these mistakes? So managers can take a leave out of this and avoid mistakes of these 5 types of bosses do, so that they become good managers, healthy managers under whom people would love to work and give their best. Thank you.